Well, hello and welcome to episode 145 of the Adoption and Fostering Podcast with me, Scott Cass and Rennie, and him,
Al Coates.
I just needed to put the on the end.
Well, there you are.
Hi, Al.
Hiya.
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 And that concludes this week's episode.
Oh, don't get me started. Don't get me started. I'm waiting for you to ask me how I am.
I'm not really. I don't really want to ask you how you are. We might be here sometime. Wait a minute. I'll just go and get the therapist couch ready for this. Al, how are you, my love?
Oh, I'm a man that's been dashed upon the rocks of his parenting ineptitude. No, I'm not. I'm really glum because my daughter number 4, child number 5, has left. She's gone. She's moved out of her own free will, just to make it clear, and we're all in agreement. She didn't storm off. Well, she has stormed off in the past.
I was going to say.
You know what she did once? We got a phone call from a friend, like the parent of a friend, and she said, "Look, I'm just ringing you up just to say it's totally fine. Rosa can move in." Just out of the blue, we didn't know anything about it, and she'd gone and she'd spun this yarn to this poor parent, saying, "Oh, parents are terrible. Can I move in here?" And she went, "Oh, fair enough, but I'll just ring them." And we went, "No, she can get herself home." So that's, yeah. So it's not that case.
No, it's not that kind of moving out. It's proper, nearly adult decision to move out.
Yeah, we bought her a toaster and everything.
Wow. Well done, you. Was that a new one?
I believe so. Yeah, but she's living in sort of domestic bliss with her partner. I think that's the right term we can use. Oh, I'm dancing around this, aren't I?
You are, aren't you?
I am dancing around this, yes.
Come on.
Less than well, do you know what is really hard is because obviously she's the 5th child to move out at some point. Some of them will come back. She's going out and it's like revolving doors, which is polishing the bedroom, and then Corey's moving back in, bless him. But do you know what? It never felt like this with any of my other children, which is quite concerning. Oh, I'm bereft. I'm absolutely feeling.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, isn't it? So there must be something in the relationship that you have with her that's a little bit different.
Oh, you've gone all
favoritism. That's what I say.
No, please don't. No, well, it's really odd because in everyone's head, she's the baby of the family because she came as a fosterling, so she was a little 3-month-old dot.
Yeah. But she's not, is she?
She's not anymore. She's a big girl now. And so but I was really surprised at how really quite hollowed out and empty I felt about the whole thing. And she's noisy, so the house is quiet now, and she's gone. So and I just thought, I was thinking about this in relation to my other children have moved out at different times in different ways, and it's always been a cause for concern. Is that him going?
Yeah.
Rumbling on?
Mm-hmm. This phone just rang. When have we ever had a phone ring in our podcast? Never. I swear, I'm sacking him. He's going to be for the high jump. And
he was eating crisp sandwiches before, wasn't he?
Yeah, it sounded like it was actually it was a soft piece of cake, but it sounded like crisp sandwiches.
I might as well get him a vuvuzela and he can just have at it. Plastic drum set.
If you're wondering who we're talking about Tris, because obviously I record my podcast now sometimes when I can in the office on a proper microphone rather than at home on an iPad. And obviously with that comes distraction.
Like a yogurt pot with string. Honestly, it's terrible. The audio quality when you're
it is. Yeah. Hence the reason I sound so fabulous today. Anyway, off you go. Yeah.
Continue. Well, no, I was just thinking about I was thinking about I hinted at it a bit on social media and sort of gave a few details about it. But I was just really conscious that it feels like it's a bit more complicated than children moving out. Children who've, I don't know. I mean, it's complicated for all parents, isn't it? But
yeah, it is. But I think as well, I mean, it is an interesting one, isn't it? Because I know that you're both a bit glum about it. You'll get there with it. I know you will. But of course, there's going to be a little bit of distance involved in it for you as well. Excuse me. I mean, we've had Tris always talks about the revolving door with the kids anyway, especially the 2 older ones, especially the oldest one. You just it's like he's on a bungee rope sometimes.
Change his name to Yo-Yo.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally get it, but I think as well as parents, there does come a point. I think, and you've experienced this, I know, and I won't ask you to go into details, but there is also a point in your head where you have to think about, will them moving out be of the benefit to them and to us as well?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's the case in this situation, but what I'm saying is, certainly with Jacob, I know how feisty and independent he is. He was 16 last week. I'm surprised. I'm surprised the suitcase wasn't down. He wasn't gone by the weekend. To be perfectly frank with you, often his camper van that he wants to buy and live in and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. And yes, early days with him, we thought very long and hard about, some of the stuff that we were experiencing with him and how long after legally he had to stay with us that he would stay with us. There's so many different reasons why. And like I say, you've been through some of them, some of the alternative reasons as to not just, they've gotten old and moved out. But also, certainly with Fraser, there came a point where it was actually to his benefit that he did move out, and actually for us as well, because, he was an adult living, trying to be independent under our roof and kind of going against everything. You might be an adult, but you still should try and live within the house rules, especially when there's a 7-year-old there and, you're F and Jeff and talking about sex, all the rest of it. So it's a tricky one,
isn't it? Because there's no sense of relationship breakdown, but like you with Rosa, I've given up on pseudonyms.
Clearly,
I'm so complicated. I'm so confused.
Here's Mr. Chris Mann with the phone back.
With his symbols between his knees.
Al said, "Have you got symbols between your knees this time?"
No, there's no sense of the relationship breaking down, but it's very much a sense of this. This is a path she's determined to go on, and she needs to do it. And as much as we can see all of the pitfalls and the dangers, and she's got to do it, because otherwise there will be just such a constant friction in the home.
Yeah,
it's got to happen. And and it's made me. It was really odd because she's moved to a place where I spent a lot of my adolescence. Out in the wilds of Wanney and Durham, a very salubrious spot.
I bet she'll find Durham more to get up to the new world.
Without doubt. I'm not even opening that cupboard in my head. But so it was a really odd to kind of go back to somewhere where I'd spent a lot of my youth, and then sort of see her sort of in her little kind of dwelling, and but it's really made me think it. I don't know about you, but so often these moments, I come back to this whole nature versus nurture thing again. That's a choice I would never have made at that age, or Paula. And there's just this sense of we're cut from different cloth. She's got to do what she's got to do in a way that I never had to.
Yeah, and I think as well that at that age, I definitely wouldn't have moved out at that age. But had I suggested it, I know I would have been more open to discussing it, if that makes sense, rather than just kind of having my, because as soon as my mum and dad started to say things like, you only earn this much a week, because back then it was, paid weekly from the job that I had. Yeah. Your car costs you this much, petrol costs you that much. By then I'd been going, oh no, I better stay where I am. I'm kind of better off, but it's not the way it works these days. I'm not sure if that's just generally, or if it's just kind of our children, if you like. Because I remember when Fraser first moved out and we tried to have that discussion with him, there was no way in this world he would have been able to afford to move out. But he moved out and he had his own little flat, and, the debts mounted up,
It's weird, isn't it? Because I think in the history of sort of children have always done things differently to their parents, but it was interesting you saying about Jacob getting to 16 and that sense of real sense of, right, okay, I can move out now, and that was exactly it with Rosa. The minute she she was watching a clock, goes right, and then within days she came up with 8 schemes as to how to move out. Now we're a year on from that, so it's, a bit so things are different, but I just feel I don't know, it's a complicated time, because I don't know whether that's an age thing as well, because you and I both see all of the pitfalls. And that our parents probably saw when we moved out, But
the fallback is quite a big thing, isn't it? The fallback, if I look back and think, being able to fall back on your parents having a house, and I guess, okay, so what are the alternatives? How can I claim more independence than you're giving me, or however you word it. And it's interesting with Brandon, because Brandon's 23, still lives with us. He did move out for a little time, and then when he came home, I say came home, and you put my fingers in the air, because he came home to a different country. But, it's clear that he thinks of his home as being with us. And he's been totally honest and said he has got no plans to go anywhere, because he has money. So much. He has money. There's no love involved. It's just that he has money, He was able to go and buy a 14,000 quid car without even thinking about it, because he doesn't have the same outgoings as someone else his age who potentially is living with a partner, or has their own flat or a house or something like that. So
was there a sense though that when he came back, that that had reset, he'd sort of scratched that itch, and it was like there was a new appreciation of actually what it is to.
Yeah, and that continues on. And he did grow up a lot in that time where he was away. I mean, so there's some things that he hasn't grown up from. Picking up dirty laundry is one of the things, but that's incorporated in how he contributes to the house. So he's I guess he's got one of those messy heads. Yeah. Or do all kids have that? I don't know. And when I say kids, he's 23. By the age of 23, I was actually picking my dirty socks and pants off the floor, and putting them in a washing basket. But that was because I was washing them, because I was independent by that point. So there's still, I do. Again, it's one of those things. Do you wonder? Is it generational? Is it our children? Is it every child? Who knows?
I mean, that's the curse of adoptive parenting, isn't it? I think that you're just constantly saying, "Is this X or is this Y? Is this normal? Mm-hmm. Is this me? Is it them? Is it?"
Yeah, exactly.
Second guessing all the time.
And of course, their life experiences. So, as an example, I mean, I'm not making it sound like I do everything for him, but I do every so often go into his room, pick up stuff, and flush the toilet. Because sometimes the toilet needs to be flushed. And that's a hangover from being in the care system, where he was told not to flush the toilet overnight because it might waken the rest of the house. Jacob does exactly the same. He had the same experience. So I've run out of those fizzy blocks that you have to put in the toilet, because every so often, I go in and I'm like, oh, hello, what are you doing in there? Kind of thing.
We always get back to toilets, don't we?
Always. And Brandon would probably kill me for telling you that, but no, he'll be fine with that. But it's just a hangover, isn't it? So they've come with so many different experiences that we don't know about. And yeah, like I say, with Jacob, he would quite happily, if he could, just go and live in a camper van somewhere. He's desperate to just travel around and do his own thing. And do university and have a job at the same time. So, whatever will happen with that one.
Well, I mean, I'm not in lots of ways. I'm not worried about Rosa at all, because she's got a real forward momentum about her, and she's got an integrity about her that I think will set her really well. I do think that she'll, in some ways, it's a path she's got to walk. You can't stop your kids being your kids, can you? So it's all
no, exactly. So I would be interested to see her housekeeping skills. So I think that would be interesting. Because I've seen her bedroom with the door open, and actually I slept in her bedroom once, and I think Paula had to go in there beforehand.
She wasn't there, was she?
No, she wasn't. That's hard to point out.
How did you lose your registration? Anyway, no.
But I think Paula had to go in and do a deep clean before I went into it, so that'd be interesting.
Cleanse with fire. Yeah, so it's interesting days. And I have to say, it's really knocked me for six. And I think it's my age as well. I think it's a real sense of, actually, I've got
impending death.
Am I impending death? And I think I might be doing the reverse of nesting. When your children are coming, you nest. I have started to get obsessively about tidying things down into boxes and throwing out rubbish I don't need. So I've been on my garage for about 6 days now. I've been throwing out things that I should have thrown out years ago. So I don't know. Anyway, strange things going on in people's heads. We've got a few little minor news items. It's been a busy summer, hasn't it? We did the minister, we did the who wasn't the minister, then was the minister for something else, but maybe the minister. Is it James Cleverly, the current minister? I have no idea.
At present, yes. We're not really going to talk about that, though, because it could change by the 5th of September, 6th of September, couldn't it? We don't know.
Yeah, who knows? And it feels really frustrating. But I think we were reflecting the other day. We had a little chat, didn't we? And we were saying that actually we feel like there's loads of bits and bobs happened that we've not been able to catch up on. So this is a bit of a bric-a-brack of an episode, really, isn't it?
Yeah, stitched together from the last couple of months.
It's like,
and of course, things are a bit weird anyway, aren't they? The weather's been weird, very weird.
Oh,
let's not go there. Yeah, all this stuff, that's been going on in the world. I still feel a little bit kind of out of sorts at the minute, but I think that's just because my routines are all over the place. So
with your health, how's your health?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's just waiting on this procedure in September to tell me whether they've managed to fix everything.
People still get in touch with me and say, "How is he? But how is he really?" And I say, "He's fine. He's milking it now." That's what I tell him. He's stringing it out.
I have a permanent, lifelong head disability now. Head disability now. That's not fair to say it's being strung out.
There was a reason I didn't become a nurse.
Yeah, clearly, because there's no empathy in you. That's for certain.
It's gone. Burned out of me by my kids.
But so hopefully once that's done and they can, so it's angiogram, but they put a dye in and all this sort of stuff. Hopefully they'll be able to see if it's all sealed and sorted, and then hopefully they'll be able to give me my driving license back, because that would just be nice, just to be able to not depend on Tris. He has to do all the driving around, rugby, students, all that sort of stuff. And it's like I sit there on the sofa with my ice cream going, see you in a bit.
Not that bad then. And I know you've got a Super Saver bus pass, haven't you? So you're like a little, one of those, when people retire, don't they, and they go on bus trip, like, what should we do today? We'll get a bus saver and we'll just go around the county. That's you, isn't it? Yeah. With your tartan
just sit there, with my flask.
That's an excellent thought.
I prefer bus bitch. That's what I call myself, bus bitch.
Yeah, the bus bitch. Well, I'm not going to be drawn on the rocks there, because I can literally see my registration flashing before me. There's a few things I'd like to do. Maybe forward notifications. I'd love to do. I think we would really like to do an episode on preparation off the back of some of the news around James Leland and what was going on there. That's Paula coming in. Thank you.
That was your packet, Crispy.
These two are building their role, aren't they? These two. Get your own podcast.
I just said, if you're doing a podcast, ours is the most listened to. We have to still be in every room.
Don't mention that.
Did I say that out loud with them in the room? Whoops. Anyway, yeah.
We'll knock it off the peg. So do one about preparation, but there's a few things I thought I'd catch up with you. I went in early, mid-July, I went to the Adoption Special Guardian Leadership Board away day, and I actually went, which is rather exciting.
Yeah. I'm so out of touch with these kinds of things, so... As in face-to-face things.
I was really odd. We were in a room, and it was one of those really hot days in July. So it was really nice, though, to speak to people. But what was really interesting, I thought, don't want to talk about it too much, but that sounds like I can't talk about it. No, it was just it was sort of reflecting on the feedback from the care review, and it was just looking at really just thinking about focusing on kinship. The morning was on kinship and the afternoon was on adoption. It was just really interesting, really coming back to the issue around contact. And so it was a really nice away day, and just to see what the future holds. Sarah Johal was there. She sort of led a lot of it through and really made sense about sort of digitizing of the letterbox system, which I think is really well overdue. The whole issue around maintaining links and stuff. So hopefully, that's what we're going to do our summer conference on. Our autumn conference on, isn't it? Maintaining links.
Yes, summer conference. No way. Not at all.
Yeah, did I not tell you? Did you not get that memo?
We did plan one, but we've put the kibosh on that, didn't we? Yeah, exactly. Because it's, God blimey, there's so many things being talked about, isn't there? When I look at, I don't really engage much with adoption Twitter, which was that was my New Year's resolution to myself, and I'm quite happy that I've stuck to it, to be honest with you. But when I do read things, it's still a very big. Well, it's actually just keeps on growing, that topic of lifelong links, doesn't it? And people kind of trying to rename it, reframe it, re-own it, whatever, reclaim it, all that sort of stuff. And the digitization process. I mean, God, there's so much more that can be done. And we've got the technology these days to be able to do it, don't we?
And it was, I managed to speak to, long story short, but I was speaking to Beth Neal, which makes me sound like it sounds like I live in Celebrity Street, doesn't it? And I was chatting to Beth Neal while I was walking the dog. Beth Neal was saying, digitization's great, but not if we're just replicating the exact system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's no point, is there?
It's total nonsense, just because everyone's complaining about how ropey the system is. Digitization is not the answer if it's just a replication of all of the
definitely not
issues. So that's really good.
But I think there's also, there's a lot of kind of experiences, and not necessarily parental experiences, but kind of the end user who are the children really, and the people who so kind of both sides of the system that should really feed into that, rather than it being adopter led, because I don't think it should be, personally. I think that there's there's oversight of it by an adoptive parent, of course there is, because we're the safeguarders, if you like, of that kind of within contact. But I don't think it should be up to us to describe and prescribe how it should look. I think that should really be up to those that are having to, who from both sides, who are even from as little as a 6-month-old. Yes, the doctors write it, or they might not write a letter. It might just be sending handprints or pictures or whatever. I don't know. But I'm just saying that I don't think it's anything that I want to.
Well, I think what was really interesting is, having been to lots of events since 2015 or so that's 7 years, the DFE. What was really interesting, it felt it was the first one where there was a real. So there was all kinds of professionals there from the different. I was actually sat on a table with Satwinder, Lucy Peake, and names escaped me.
Oh. Name drop. Oh, you can't remember the rest.
I know Maggie from the CVA. Forgotten her name.
Yeah, Maggie Jones.
Maggie Jones. And so it was really like quite a peculiar table to be on, just coincidentally, because like getting a good table is like really important, isn't it? These things, got to get a good table. But I accidentally got that table because I was probably the last one there. And it was just really interesting to get a real sense that adopters are being repositioned where they should be. I mean, we've always been the primary voice in this world, and we're not anymore. And that was just felt really healthy to see special guardians there, adopted people speaking out, and their opinions being really valued and really well represented by a range of people. So it just felt. Whereas in the past, it sometimes felt like an add-on. It felt like it was, and as an adoptive person, I was really conscious of just being part of that, not having a special status, or not having a trump card because I'm an adopted, which is really good, really healthy.
Yeah, but I think generally it's not been done like that in the past, because people don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the pain that people have been through, which I think is part of it. If you kind of. Yeah, if you follow stuff like that, then that's how it reads, doesn't it? It reads like there's a lot of pain involved. And I think as advocates for our children, that's all I've ever tried to do, is be an advocate for my children.
I think that's been
by
misrepresented,
stamping my feet,
hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that that's kind of Anyway, that's another discussion, I think.
Well, I think it's one we'll come back to. And obviously the conference that we're going to do, which is on the 25th of November, you can check out the Eventbrite link. I literally pointed down like that.
You did.
I'm so flipping with it.
You are. Or go to noborderstraining.org.
You're on fire.
Click on training and events. And there it is.
Boom. So Sarah Jahal has confirmed she'll be coming, and I think we were going to do what we did last time, which was going to try and get lots of voices of different people with different experiences. We've got potentially people who've had it, like adopters who've had the experience of sort of unwanted or unsolicited contact, not unwarranted.
Yes.
Who fit through social media, hear those voices, how they manage that. Young people people who are living it into their lives. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, as well as someone, we're in the process of talking to somebody from Pause as well to see if they can contribute in some way, shape, or form as well. So we get that kind of, I don't know, overarching kind of look at it as well, I guess. So it'll be an interesting one. It really will, with all the kind of progress that's been made.
Yeah, and I think just as I was chatting to Bethany, I spoke to Bethany because she was doing a bit of work to feed into the ASLGB away day. And one thing she said was really interesting, having spoken to adoptive parents, said that there's a lot of adoptive parents who were really up for this. And I think that in the past I've probably been characterized as being a bit critical of adoptive parents. She said there's a lot of adoptive parents who've are up for this. But social workers are stopping them, going, oh, the risks are too great. And then saying, well, define the risks. And so I think that's the missing piece of the jigsaw, isn't it? Like in all of these rooms, you'll get managers or heads of service, but you practitioners, team leaders. That's what we need as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I did see something on a thread the other day about kind of, the one that was there. I am always watching. I might never have seen it much, but I'm always watching. I did see a thread the other day, and it was about that kind of discussion. And the agency, whoever they were really not supportive. The agency workers, should I say, there was nobody there who could support it, who could help with it. So if we can't get that right, then it's never going to work. Yeah. So it needs to be kind of bottom up rather than top down.
And every now and then I reach out trying to get different voices on the podcast. And one of the voices I really want to get is social workers. We've never had an assessing social worker come on. We've never had a post-adoption support social worker. We've had heads of service, which is great.
Yeah.
But we've never had an actual bona fide.
No, we haven't.
People won't come on there, whether it's nervousness or just sort of.
I know. We have tried. We've both tried. We've both had.
Maybe it's us.
Extensive conversations with friends who are assessing social workers. Nope, never. I don't know. I don't know what's stopping them. They won't even come on with a pseudonym, for goodness sake.
Dave from Grimsby.
Dave.
No, don't go there. He's getting very fat Dave is, because I've refused to take, it's too hot for him, so we had to throw him in the pool the other day, and he hadn't even, all he'd done is walk from the settee to the back door. So we're thinking that he might not be fat, he might just be genetically troubled.
Well, maybe, you never know.
Yeah. And I've actually got bit on the head by my puppy. I mean, when I say bit on the head, she got a jaws on the top of my head, German Shepherd. Anyway, that's another story.
You can't even call her a puppy. She's like, what, 14 months, 15 months old?
She's 13 months old. She's
13 months old. That is not a puppy. She's the same size as her bloody mother.
She is. And she got me in a headlock with her teeth. And I was like, it's like having my head consumed by a lion, like over the top, jaws on each ear.
Yeah.
So I've got.
I've just realised why Rose has moved out. She's been replaced.
She's been replaced. Yeah, slightly concerning. Scott, there's another subject on my list of things to talk about. Shall we talk about our conversation as opposed to the subject matter? We do occasionally, hard as it is to imagine, listen to other podcasts, don't we, Scott?
Occasionally, yes, if they're of interest.
If they pique our interest, if it's a certain something that. So I got this message. I was riding my bike actually, and I got this message off Scott, and he said, "Have you seen this?" And I looked at it. Tell me what you said to me, Matt.
Oh, okay. I feel like I'm shaming other podcasts, but I'm not really, because I think actually it's not about shaming. It's just about kind of this discussion, and I think that's what podcasts were made for, wasn't it? They're made to talk about things that potentially you wouldn't talk about in everyday life. Yeah. So there was a podcast recently on.
We can say their name, can't we?
Well, I guess we can't we?
We don't want to. I mean,
well, it's out there. You would only have to Google it and put podcast on the end, and then you'd find it, wouldn't you?
If you're a regular listener to us, don't switch allegiance. If you're a regular listener to us, put a review on iTunes.
On iTunes for us. So it's New Family Social. I think they call it "What's the Tea," which is a kind of
fostering and a cup of tea. Yeah,
and tea. It's not a cup of tea. It's tea, which is kind of anyway. And in kind of the LGBT world, it means truth. It's like a.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's what they've used it for, because I've never spoken to them. We've tried to get Tor on, who's the CEO of New Family Social a couple of times, but she's never come on because we always ask her the week of LGBT adoption fostering week, and she's too busy.
Busiest woman in the world.
Plus, obviously, now they've got their own podcast. So anyway, so it was on there, and it's obviously a podcast that's kind of aimed at the LGBTQIA plus community, and the conversation was around. I think it was. I need to make sure I get my words right, because if not, it comes out the wrong way, and then it doesn't sound right, does it?
Consensual
non-monogamy. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. So I don't think it takes a scientist to work out what that means, does it?
You just have to think about it for a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So is that long enough?
yeah. Yeah, you had me there. I'm totally in with that.
So what was your reaction now?
Well,
and the reason I sent it to you was because because you assess foster carers, don't you?
I do, yeah.
And I made this assumption that it must have come up for you in the past. Whether it be through
in my
your
circles.
training or through, whatever. But anyway, go on.
No, I mean, I haven't. That's something that no one's ever sort of spoke to me about in relation to during an assessment. And I initially thought, well, in blunt terms, that's just sleeping with other people, isn't it? It's sort of I mean, that's how they characterized it. And I, in my head, I thought, well, that's an open relationship. It's just, that's not how if you listen to the podcast, that's not how they choose to define it. So I don't want to do that. And I thought, well, before I kind of was on the verge of having lots of opinions, I thought, well, I'll go away and listen. So that was what I did.
Yeah. And we both listened to it properly as well. So
proper. Took notes and everything.
Yeah.
Proper. And it's an assessing social worker. So I thought, well, right, okay, hypothetically, someone comes to me, and I guess regardless of what the issue is, the crux of it for me is what about the children? What is the impact on this about children? Because actually, however people want to live is fine. As adults, you can do whatever you want, and that's how you want the terms of your relationship, the terms of how it's constituted, and how you operate within it. As long as it's within the law, then that's fine. But I guess ultimately, what is the impact on the child that's going to either, from a fostering perspective, a child that moves in, is it going to be something that's going to be difficult for them?
Yeah.
Or is it going to cause a challenge and adversity for them? And if it is that an unreasonable, again, you're always weighing reasonable versus unreasonable versus additional adversity, and is it going to? And listening to the podcast, and it was clear that people had thought this through. I think the issue for me, which I found really fascinating, I don't know about you, and I don't know whether you picked up on this, was that they'd the issue was that they'd not chosen to share that at that stage, and it kind of just through bizarre circumstances it had been shared. And I couldn't quite work out whether they were toying whether to share it or not to share it. That's
right. Yeah. But that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on. Then what?
No, then you blew my mind because you went, this is like normal.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting one because, and the reason I say it's interesting is because I know that this happens within the LGBT community, and what's to say it doesn't happen in, normal. I retract that word, normal. I retract that in the straight world or in the, not just any world, really. I mean, we know that there is certain kind of communities around the world who believe in polygamy, and having multiple wives, and all that sort of stuff. So it's I knew it was there, and I guess I know a lot of LGBT or same-sex couples really who have these kinds of relationships. Some of them who have adopted. But what's interesting is the kind of judgment. I'm talking about years ago when we did it. I'm not sure what sort of judgment we would have had if we'd had that to consider within our assessment, if that makes sense. So if that was how we lived and we had to kind of explain that, would that have been, with everything else that goes on, you do feel like you've been judged, whether whatever community you're in, but specifically within the LGBT community, because it's still new. You feel like it's still new, even though you've got an equal right to be a parent by adoption, the same as you have. But there's that bit during assessment, and of course, as a panel member and as somebody who has done training for local authorities on prep courses and all that sort of stuff, I was just thinking about some of the kind of questions that may arise as you go further into that. So, you speak to your assessing social worker, it's approved by the manager, always tickety-boo, and then you go to panel. And then the panel, pick it up potentially. The panelists are independent of the agency.
Broadly.
Yeah, I mean, in the main. Anybody could pick that up and really take issue with it without being, I don't want to use the word not educated about it, but without kind of understanding behind it. And if you pick up on something like that to bring up as a question in panel, of course, prospective applicants are going to expect it because it's unusual. But again, it's judging them, and they may well have really gone into a lot of detail about their relationship,
So that raises the question of the skills of the assessing social worker and the ability to articulate exactly what's going on. Because I work as student social workers and I supervise people doing Form Fs.
Yeah.
And one of the things, the way I describe it is you open up issues and then you've got to be able to wrap a bow on them and you've got to be able to close them back up. And so someone reading, the greatest compliment I can get from a Form F is people who are reading it then say, oh, I had all of these questions, but, you opened up all these questions in the first sort of third, but by the time we got to the end, they'd all been neatly answered. And I think that you can, as long as you do that well, and as long as if I'm making a recommendation, I've got to be able to articulate that in the constraints of what is legal. I mean, you said an interesting point, which is a slight aside, is you said equal right to be a parent. No one has a right to be a parent. You have an equal right to be assessed as a foster carer or an adopter. You don't have a right to be a parent. And that's all.
Pedantic.
No, it's not, because...
Yeah, I know. But what I mean? Sorry. Right. So take the word to be a parent out, but I'm just talking about a world with equality. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's not fall out.
No, well, I just hate it when you pick up on things like that because you're just being an arse.
It was one of the things that made me think when I was listening to it. I was thinking, well, no one has the right to be a parent, and comes a point where your life, you're choosing to live a certain way. That then has implications for your desire to be a parent. Not choosing to live a certain way. I don't mean that in choosing sexuality, but choosing how your lifestyle is outworked. How you're, and for them, that's for the people on the podcast. They chose consensual. Non-monogamy. Words.
Yeah,
non-monogamy. And I thought to myself, right, if they'd come to me and said, "Oh, we've been together 3 years, and the last 6 months we're trying this on for size," I'd say, "Go away and try it a bit longer on for size," because in my mind there's lots of pitfalls. But this was a relationship that was quite long, and it complicated. And I thought
it lasted over various different bits and bobs that had happened through life as well. Yeah.
Sort of a tried and tested, stable, secure relationship. They'd shown they'd thought through all of the questions that they were going to be asked. That's the key thing for me. That there's no, and when you're doing an assessment, the questions you ask are also preparing people for what's going to happen. So all of those questions they'd thought through. So I was kind of like, at the end of it, I thought, well, yeah, I think like you, I think it's going to be a hard sell at panel because panel are coming to it cold. They haven't sat with you. Like I've sat with my applicants for however many sessions, 4, 5, 6 2-hour sessions. But panel comes to it from a standing start and within the read. How long does it take to read a Form F? Panel or a PAR?
Depends on how long it is, but it can take a couple of hours, can't it? Well, there's that as well. Yeah, depends on how many times you've read the same stuff that's been copied and pasted.
Oh, losing the will to live. I totally. Oh,
not that happens in the agencies that I see.
No.
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 I mean, it can take a couple of hours, can it? And you are you are critiquing. That is the whole point of it coming to panel. You're critiquing the report that's been written and the content of it as well. Now it may just be a case of a little little I hasn't been dotted here, or a little T hasn't been crossed there, or it could be something a bit more extreme. And that is it. That's the issue that you've got.
Well, sometimes things that I think the danger also is in assessing social workers that you become enamored by the people. And you lose the ability to critically analyze that. So you become, as a rule of thumb, when I'm assessing foster carers, the first thing is, would I happily leave my children there? And that's a kind of that's a baseline. If that's your first feeling, then we'll work on evidence why that is. But if you don't get that feeling, then it's going to be a hard sell all the way through.
Yeah.
So feelings is part. I mean, that as an assessing social worker, you've got to get the warm and fuzzies. You've got to like the people you're assessing, or feel that they could do their job. I thought it was a fascinating exercise for me as a social worker to think, well, hang on, come away and check all your biases and your stereotypes and your all the all the cultural
really,
stuff.
Doesn't it? I mean, even for me, just hearing someone talk about something that I knew and I know exists, but to talk about it out loud when you would, I had this perception that, it wouldn't be something that people would be open and honest about. And of course, there's lots of questions around that, but, it is there and it exists. And I think it's like everything, it's like they say, not everything is for everybody. Can we just say that?
Some of us don't like cheese and onion crisps.
Exactly. But it's there, it happens. And, like you say, it depends on the assessing social worker and how they kind of get to the bottom of it. And, I think that was a really good way of you explaining it, actually. You'd like to tie up all the little issues into little gift parcels, so then they can just open them up but it's all answered, or it's all there for them. So
yeah, and sometimes there's questions about. I really, really enjoy doing Form Fs. I don't like I love all the chat and the kind of thinking and the strategy about them. But then what I don't like is the actual writing up element, because it's long and hard working. But the thing that I don't know about you, but I picked up on there was this question mark about how honest you are with your assessing social worker, and I thought that was where it got really interesting, and I couldn't quite work out I couldn't get to the nub of that conversation. But I see that on social media all the time, where on especially closed Facebook groups, where people are sort of having these, people feel sort of penalized for being really honest, or brutally honest in relation to things like mental health, things like issues around childlessness. And then I see other people who kind of asking the question, hey, do you think I should tell my social worker this? And some people going, no, don't tell them.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And you go, but I know that if I found out something, and this has happened, found out things after the fact, or halfway through, or 3/4 of the way through, or the day before panel, and I feel like, oh, hang on, this is not just, oh, by the way, we went to Morocco on holiday 3 years ago.
Yeah.
This is fundamental to how we live and our experience, then that's when I kind of, the whole thing is undermined.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd agree with that. Yeah. But on the other side, I can understand the reticence to be open about something like that because of, judgment. So, it's a funny one, because you want everybody to think that they can be open and honest. Yeah. Well, I guess it harks back to a time where, even someone who wanted to say they were gay couldn't, ended up getting married, having 3 kids or 4 kids, and living a life.
History. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a long time ago, is it?
No. So it's kind of, you do. Yeah, we've got a long way to go in this world before everybody becomes kind of less judgmental.
Cultural norms. I mean, I work into different communities, different cultures, and, people live differently. They live really differently. How, the age, we talk about children moving out, the ages that children move out, and how families, even when you look at somewhere like London, where people just can't afford to move out. So you've got generations living in one house, which the Form F is not, it's kind of social workers going, well, what does that look like? And, but actually for a lot of families, that sort of works. You know, that works and that's community. It's a different way of living. Culturally, that's totally normal. But our 2.5 kids in a Labrador world, the Form F sometimes feels a bit like it's. I mean, I think it's changing, but we're all different.
Yeah.
Kids are flexible.
Mm. Yeah.
Very
so
flexible.
Fair play to them for openly discussing it. Anyway, I thought it was.
So get yourself off and listen to it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Think some thoughts.
Yeah, we need to be a bit more edgy.
So I'm coming over to see you in a few days. Why am I coming over to see you, Scott? Tell me all the things that are happening to you.
We can't really say too much, but
can we not?
No, it's quite a big secret actually. But yes, you are coming over for a visit in the next couple of days, and I guess all will be revealed on the day, really. But it's important to have all partners involved in this.
I've put it on Facebook.
Thing. No, you haven't. Liar. Yeah, it's not a public event, shall we say that? So it's a private event.
Private event for special people.
Yes, very special people.
Oh, it's not the Illuminati fortnightly whisk drive, is it?
No, I told you, you're going to be holding platters at the top of the stairs, going, welcome. Can
I have you on rollerblades like the Martini girl?
Actually, I need to get you your little leprechaun's outfit, and you'll be on your knees all day. And I'm not talking.
Just stop. Stop. Your drawing is onto a whole raft of very complicated complaints.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, you are coming over. Yes, we will. We'll probably do a podcast while you're here.
That's exciting.
Might do a live, we might not. Who knows?
We could do a live, couldn't we?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it'll be an exciting few days anyway for us. This end of this side of the world.
And your cruise is about to happen. While this goes out, I'll be
the day before. Yeah,
you'll be playing deck kites or whatever it's called.
I'll be in a hotel in Copenhagen, actually, or Copenhagen. Is it Copenhagen? Copenhagen? Can't remember. Anyway, one of those.
£47 for a half lager.
Apparently so, yes. Which is why our hotel has a little inclusive lounge in the evening. Where it's free. Anyway, but of course, can't drink too much at the minute or at all. So, have to watch what I'm doing.
Excellent. We are living like a proverbial monk. I am.
Life is boring.
It is, isn't it? Well, no, I don't drink in my life. It's very exciting.
That's what you call it. I think if I had your life, I would drink more.
No, actually, yeah. I did have a beer at the weekend.
Shock. Well, we will be celebrating when you're over something, which we'll talk about. But yeah, so we might have a few little drinkies then.
Well, on that note, shall we bid adios and farewell and all that kind of thing?
And happy summer and
summer's over now.
Well, it is now, isn't it? It's rained now, hasn't it?
If we were any sort of a podcast, this would be the weekend before children go back to school. We'd be doing how to go back to school podcast.
Yeah.
How to prepare your children for transitions in school. That's what a real podcast would be doing, wasn't it? That's if you just
like I say, we need to be a little bit better at this. I think this year has just been like a little bit of stitch it together and see what happens.
It's been like falling down the stairs and hoping we land on our feet.
Yeah. I take 70% of that on the chin.
I'm glad.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of book interviews coming up, and but we'll see that. And we've got stuff coming up. We've got all kinds of exciting people coming.
We do. But in the meantime, if you want to come along to our annual conference, this will be our third one.
Yes, our best.
It's online. So it's online. It's very accessible. It will all be recorded, and if you can't make it on the day, then we'll send it around afterwards. It's 15 quid. I mean, come on. £15. 15 of your English, British pounds. Yeah. Just go to the website, noborderstraining.org, click on training and events, and on that page you will see all the loveliness. And like we said earlier, Sarah Joel is going to be one of the speakers. We're going to have a real mix this year, but we're just waiting on the final ones to confirm.
Excellento, magento frequento. There you go. And on that bombshell, Bon Jovi.
Anchovy.
So I forgot to say, I went to Gay Pride. I took the youngest, and we went and we had a right laugh, mainly because we just played see how much merch we could get.
Yeah, you did. I saw the photos. It was ridiculous.
No, well, actually, it was a bit of a. That wasn't the real reason I went. I went because there was someone from Adoptees Valley said, "Hey, pop along," and I said, all right, then I will." And then when I got there, I realised that there was lots of other people there, so that was really messy. And
did you see anybody you knew?
No, I didn't. Oh, yes, I did. I can't say who.
Okay, don't say who.
I won't say who. And then I went to, so I went to Adopt Northeast. And then I went to and I'm not going to give comparison who gave the best gear out, but anyway. And then I went to Bernardo's, and there's like adopting and fostering, and I was a real arse. I have to say, I have to apologise to everyone involved, because I leant in to look at the merch, and then there was a badge that said Bernardo's adoption and fostering, and the young person, although probably an adult, I'm getting old now, and they said, and they looked at me like laughingly and went, "Not at the same time," and I went, and like everything in me should have just shut up and gone, "Oh, really? That's nice," and walked off. And then I went, "Really?" And she went, "Well, actually, no, you can't, but that's really complicated." I went, "Oh, I'm really sorry." And I just caused this really awkward moment where I was right smart ass, and I thought, "Oh, what an idiot."
Do you know when you first said that, I thought you were going to say you're a bit old to be adopted.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. See, you could get yourself in a lot of trouble at one of those events, couldn't you? Literally.
Good lad like me.
Well, no, I'm just thinking your brain not being in gear before you open your mouth. We
were very good, and we had to. We didn't stay for as long as I'd like to. We had to get somewhere else. But the youngest had she loved it. We had so much fun.
Good.
And the people were so friendly. It was just lovely time. And
well, you've been to one more than I've been to this year, because I've not been to any. So,
frankly, I'm slightly worried. You need to come out of the closet.
Well, I was thinking, I mean, there's lots you could do, isn't there? I went to one. I remember we took the boys to one years ago when I worked at Adoption UK. We went to Brighton Pride, actually. We had a lot of fun there.
I remember
as
that.
A lot of fun. But lots of kind of different, just lots of different questions and lots of unknown, a bit like people not knowing that they were able to be assessed and all that sort of stuff. So I'd still be interested to know how these what the questions are asked now and how many people are aware, and all that sort of stuff. It's interesting.
It was interesting. I literally left the house. I just got up in the morning going, "Oh, I've got to get Pride." And then I went, and then I did. And then I realised, I looked in the mirror and I thought, everyone was wearing lovely, colourful clothes. I was wearing black shorts and a black hoodie, black trainers.
Token straight man.
It's like, can anyone see a straight man in the Mr. Thousand? The black hat.
You didn't pull then, no?
I felt like I was there almost protesting it. It was like what I was.
They probably all looked at you going, "Oh, mind him."
Edgy.
Yeah.
I didn't bring my chaps, so we're okay.
Oh, that's all right. Oof. Ooh, what a thought. What a vision.
On that note,
goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Recording